Today's episode is starting very seriously. You are welcome to the Children and the Media podcast. No time for a theme song today. We are getting into serious business, okay? So last week's episode was the legal framework protecting Nigerian children online. If you did listen to last week's episode, I think you should just pause and go back, because today's episode might not really hit deep if you don't know where we're coming from. You need to know where we're coming from to know where we're going to, okay? This week's episode, let's just call it the practical side of last week's episode. So we got to know about the law last week and just why we should know the law, how we can put that knowledge to use. This week, we're looking at real cases where children have had issues with their digital interaction and use cases. And then we're just going to imagine some other cases. Not necessarily imagine. So, the thing with Nigeria is there are a lot of situations that go underreported. Or maybe they are, but they just didn't make it to mainstream media. I've done the due diligence of getting some of those cases so we can talk about. The episode might be a bit long, so maybe you can just grab zobo, malt, chin-chin, popcorn, and let's roll. Because it's not like the usual 15 minutes, 20. It might be a bit more than that. So that's why I'm putting a disclaimer out there. So, the law. I don't know why I like to sound dramatic when I'm saying the law. But yes, if you didn't listen to the last episode of the podcast, sprint to last episode. So I'm starting very quickly so we don't waste too much time with true cases that shook us. Like very real cases of children having issues with their digital exposure or their social media interaction. For legal purposes, I will try to leave off as much sensitive information as I can. And also because we're talking about children, so to protect their identity, their privacy, and stuff like that. But for those of you who have been online for quite some time, in 2022, there was like a gist on Twitter. And apparently a popular and I dare say prestigious school in the country, they went to Dubai. I think it was an excursion or they were participating in something. They had like a couple of their students. The students were between younger years from like 10 to early teen years, 13. I don't know if they were kids older than that. And so, of course, given the tax brackets of the parents who put their children in schools like that, I assume these children had their own personal gadgets. If not, why did this story even exist? So the children recorded like videos and posted on social media. Apparently the videos showed them dancing explicitly and just engaging in sexual activity. We can't know for sure. I refused to watch the video because at the time I was already working on my project and I knew that stuff like that breaches children privacy and I had like some information at the time, so I wasn't part of the people requesting to watch it. I didn't even look at it, but I followed the case for a bit. After some time, the mother of one of the girls, the major girl involved, the young child, her mother took to social media and alleged that she was drugged and raped. It was a whole thing. I don't know if that's the same case because around the same time, there were a couple of other cases coming out. We have had like streams of debacles like that in Nigeria. And my point is, during that conversation, everybody had their 2 cents. People blamed the school. People blamed the young child. People blamed the parents. People blamed the government. People blamed the owners of... We all had who we believed should share in the blame. But since we are having a legal conversation and we are contextualizing it in Nigeria, let's actually look at what the law says and like the laws that are supposed to protect the young girl in this scenario. This case is popular, but I'm not giving details. If you don't know, it's fine. But we're just using it to have this conversation. The Child Rights Act of 2003 referring to the last episode, I gave like a bit of detail on this Child Rights Act. Even though it's old, that's still one of the strongest legal frameworks we have to protect Nigerian children online. So if she had gotten a lawyer at the time, we're just discussing that for the sake of the podcast, one of the things that would have been used to argue the case is Section 11 of that act. And Section 11 is basically to protect children from all forms of exploitation and abuse. That's following what her mother alleged, that she was drugged and raped. Don't really know if it's the same case or if that happened, hence allegedly. But if that was true, Section 11 of the Child Rights Act that states that children should be protected from all forms of exploitation and abuse could be used to defend her in that situation despite it happening online. Section 17 of that act, which is the one I'm going to hammer on a bit, as regards to people who were asking, where's the video? Tag me, retweet, share. Okay, now send me the link or IG. Section 17 of the Child Rights Act recognizes a child's right to dignity. And let me just say this, I don't think it's just for children. I think for everybody. If we accord people dignity, we will not be quick to make an entire sensation out of their vulnerable moments. I'm just going to leave it at that. Another of the laws that can be used in this scenario is the Cyber Crimes Act. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast because this is a cyber issue. So people on Twitter were actually shaming the girl. Yes, she's 13. People were calling her a prostitute and all sorts of hurtful words. That can classify as cyberbullying. So the Child Rights, I keep saying Child Rights, the Cyber Crimes Act of 2015, the Section 24 of that. Hey, I now sound like a lawyer. Legal luminary esquire. Okay, let me be serious. The Cyber Crimes Act of 2015 in Section 24 prohibits cyberbullying and explicit content. They are minors, so definitely the content is explicit. And because people took to bullying the young child, that's also cyberbullying. And that law is supposed to protect the girl from cyberbullying and, sharing of explicit content. That's people who continue to repost. Section 27 of the same law addresses child pornography. So we don't know how explicit the video was, but because they are minors, child pornography is the tag, is the compound name. And this law, Section 27 of it, is supposed to protect them from, all that comes with child pornography. I don't even know why child and pornography should be in the same sentence. Whew. It's a wicked world. Next up, the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation of 2019. I talked about this. Nigeria has a few provisions in the law to prohibit unauthorized sharing of information. So this data protection regulation also covers children. It's supposed to protect their personal data, and it prohibits unauthorized sharing of minors' information. They are 13, 10. The children in the video, as the case went, were not older than 13, I guess. So it's their personal information, their schools, their parents' name, their ages, their full names. So much of their information was shared online. In fact, we even had people going to maybe their siblings' pages and tagging, and that's their information. We're not supposed to share that. We're supposed to protect. And this is why the Camp Podcast exists. We are the grown-ups who care. So if you as an adult come across such things, on your own end, do what you can to hold it down. Don't share the information of minors, and do what you can to protect their personal data. So Lagos State, and this is also interesting, I found out that Lagos State has a child protection policy. I don't even know how many people know this. I know Lagos State already does so much in the area of domestic abuse, violence. I see some of those cases online from time to time. But apparently, Lagos State requires schools to report child abuse and to protect the identity of minors. The school in question was in Lagos, or is in Lagos, and it is easy for the girls' legal counsel to use the Lagos State Safeguarding and Child Protection Policy of 2016 to argue, against the school, because I think the school even had a statement denying things, and it was a very messy PR move, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't believe the school did what they could to protect. That's a child. Their statements didn't give, we are protecting this young child from the harm in this wicked world. Children can make mistakes, but we all failed her as a society. The people online that turned it into entertainment, the people who insulted her, her parents, the people. It's a lot. We're not going to get into that, but I think it's just heartbreaking, that such a young child had to go through something like that. And that's the thing. There was an era in this life where people could make mistakes and get away with it. One of the things I believe has been stolen from children in this age is they can't really have normal childhoods. The children of this age cannot. You know how even in secondary school, for people in like proper Gen Z, like the early Gen Z people, millennials, you did a lot of stuff in school and there's no record. But the children of now, they don't have that luxury. There's always one blog somewhere. Somebody has the video on their hard drive. Like, see, we underestimate how serious a digital footprint really is. Somebody wakes up and an old laptop in their house, they are trying to clear it out and videos emerge, pictures, stuff like that. Before, we just had the yearbook. But my point is, this is why we should take protecting children online seriously. They don't have the opportunity to retrace their steps sometimes. They don't have the opportunity to go back. So we need to double down in this regard. Phew, I think I've spent like a bit of time on that case, but that's an actual case that happened. So now I just want to move into another segment to explore, I would say, a couple of other cases. But these ones are common things that we see every other day. But some of us don't even have the idea that these things, we should talk about it and the laws around it. Number one, children in comedy skits. See, first of all, as an adult, okay, so in 2023, I was at the beach with a friend of mine, and maybe that day he had like a tag on his head, interview me, invisible. I don't know, because like 5 content creators came to meet him to ask him all these weird questions. If your girlfriend had esophagus, will you marry her? Now, you're an adult, you can consent, you can decide to walk away or not. But for children, and especially in this part of the world where we give them, quote and unquote, a home training that doesn't really empower some of them to be courageous enough to make some decisions on the spot. So you have already taught them, be respectful to elders, be this, be that. I didn't say teach them contrary. But then somebody, of course, looking older, approaches them, gives them a mic, asks a weird question, and they are young. They can't consent. They don't know how to turn that down or walk away. And you see videos of young children either making a fool of themselves or having to say vulgar things. And content creators share these things. We laugh. It looks funny. But we are putting children at risk. Please understand that. It's one thing if maybe the parents of the child are the ones doing this. That's another conversation. In future episodes, we'll get to parenting, and I feel parenting is a whole series. So many things to explore. That's different. But like, those skits where there's a young child going to a shop to buy garri or something, and you're making jokes, you're videoing them, it's going viral. Adults are laughing about it, we're sharing. Children are using adult innuendos, and it's not funny. And we should have a law that, I'm not shouting, I promise, but we should have a law that protects children against stuff like that. And an applicable law on that should be the Cyber Crimes Act. I feel like that's a form of bullying. So a good lawyer could use the Cyber Crimes Act and argue that case. Another situation, and this one is a bit popular, but like I said, this country feels like a large crime scene, and we don't get to have these conversations enough. Bullying in schools. So the bullying in schools has passed. When we were younger, there was a stage that bully was Orobo 2 Coke or Orobo 2 Fanta or Orobo 50 liters. Don't worry, I was bullied, so I can relate. But now, the bullying doesn't just happen physically, it also happens online. Sometime in 2023, I'm guessing, when I was still like a much more active Twitter babe, a mother tweeted about how her son was being bullied in school. Apparently, his school allows tablets and stuff like that, and his classmates opened a WhatsApp group and they were saying a lot of things about her child. She found out this was affecting her child's self-esteem and she went to the school with it. Do you know the school authorities told her? Boys will be boys. This is a different conversation because we have the part about normalizing abuse and so many of these things for boys. Be a man. Why is he reporting? Ask people who went to some brutal secondary schools in this country. The snitch will always get a stitch. But that's not the point. The point is, this is cyberbullying, bro. And if the school, I'm going to get to like laws at the end of the episode, like things we can do, especially on the part of schools. Because you people just think in this country that school is to make money. It is. You now open your school, put signboard, children start coming in. Zero infrastructure on how to protect them, especially online. And it's worse now because everybody wants to open a prestigious school and slap big tags, British and American curriculum, robotics, AI, this and that, with zero infrastructure to protect children online. All the children have tablets, laptops, the children don't even know that these things exist. They don't even know, one, that they are cyberbullying somebody, because now they are not just bullying, it has graduated, and they don't know that actions have consequences. They don't even know how dire or severe the consequences can be. And so the woman goes to meet the school authorities and they tell her boys will be boys, and that's all. Of course, in Nigeria, like I said in the last podcast, we have some laws. They can actually be effective, perhaps, if they were being put to use. But they are not, and I'm guessing she took her L and had to change her child's school. I followed the tweet a bit. She said she pulled him and changed schools. This is also why, okay, I'm not going to talk about homeschooling, please, because, again, long conversation. But these are just some of the cases that we see every other day. So that school has a parents-teacher association, and nobody thought it wise to talk about as well. Moving on, there are a few other cases that I put together, some from the Western world, some to just look into the gaps that we have with the law, not necessarily the gaps we have with the law, but scenarios where the laws can apply. There's a young child, her mother manages her TikTok account, and she's dancing to trendy songs, some of which I would not even listen to. Because if we start to dissect the lyrics of some of the songs that are viral, I do not believe that they are child-friendly. In fact, as simple as inter-house sports, graduation parties, I believe that there are songs that should not be played there. Like, there are things we should, in the first place, so when I see some viral videos of kids dancing to some songs, I know that there's a problem, because you should not even have listened to that song to know it well enough to know the lyrics, to know it well enough to know the dance steps. There's a problem. I'm not about to blame the parents. But when you move to the content of the mother, so the mother innocently is excited, her child knows how to dance, she posts it online, go and look at the comment section. And you will find grown men writing, "She's my wife, shake it, baby girl." And weird, this person is 8. The child in the video is 8. How is she your wife? Why? And we have normalized. See, you need to understand that the online world is just mirroring a lot of things that happen physically. People will follow their mothers to the market when they were 7, 6. And the man that is selling meat, that probably has even 2 wives or is married with 5 children, is calling that small girl his wife. And it's not okay. Things like that are not okay. And now those people have phones and they have moved online. So when you share content of little kids, even for boys, Somebody posts a cute son, and even for birthdays, this is why some parents have a valid paranoia of sharing pictures of their kids. Because why is a mother posting her son and another grown woman is saying his lips look kissable? Help me understand. And this is why people need to know. You can't say things like it's against the law, it's inappropriate, it's improper. You can't do that. And if we really knew the law, and if people knew not just the law, but that the law has consequences, it will be easy to declare a safer world for children. If our children will feel safer online. But when grown-ups are facing the same scenarios, younger children, so who is really safe? And then you have the schools who tell you they are doing stuff like mental health. Almost every school has a guidance and counselor teacher. By the way, I feel like that's very problematic with many schools because the GNC is leaking the students' gist to the principal. So, from where to where. If nothing else, my secondary school is a testimony to that. You will tell, and they will give like an open door policy. Children, you can come to any of us. We are there for you. What we don't understand is the trust of children is so fragile because they are literally new to this. So if they cannot trust you, who else can they trust? This is also for the people who overreact. I understand that reaction is a thing, but it's like African mothers when a child falls down and they will say, don't look at the child, don't just throw a face, do like say you know see him. What that is trying to connote is the child doesn't know the gravity of what has happened. And they are looking to you to get a reaction. But when they see your indifference, they're like, oh, okay, it's good. And they stand up and play. But when they see your face and you're like, oh, my goodness, they start crying because for them, like, I've never seen my mom or my dad have this reaction. I think it must be serious. And it's the same way I feel like when children approach us with some of the things they're going through, if we either downplay it or over-exaggerate it, they mirror what we have done and carry that out in similar cases and even extend it to other cases. So let's assume in this era of sharing memes, your son or your nephew has, using nephew because it's not like only parents that listen to this podcast. In fact, I want to believe that everybody who is an adult listens to this podcast. But yeah, your nephew tells you that children in school made memes of him having a really big head. And I mean, they go to use like a Jimmy Neutron meme and they share it around groups. They share it on, just different places. Maybe they even post it on IG and tag him. And you feel so sorry for him. Instead of saying, a normal thing now. There's an angle to that so that he doesn't internalize it and it affects his self-esteem. But there's also the side of going to hold the school responsible. Do you people have like a digital? And I'm going to get to that. Like I said, this episode is long because we are going to discuss the solutions. We're not just ruling out problems. If you report to the teachers, nothing changes. Of course, most parents will just simply withdraw and look for another school. But now the remaining children who are in that school, what now happens to them? Because this thing that has happened to your child is going to happen to another child there. And we don't know how that one is going to take. We have people that are 15 and depressed that want to end their lives. We are facing a crisis. And I always say that on this podcast, we don't peddle fear. We don't push the agenda of paranoia and being afraid. But this is the sad truth. Finally, before I now get to the parts where we start talking about solutions, I'm just going to say that the teachers in schools, I started my case study rollout with a school. So I'm going to come for the teachers as well. I believe that not just the teachers, but the average Nigerian adult doesn't know what is good to share and what should be kept discreet or private. Tell me why you have you're following someone on Twitter and the person has posted from suggestive tweets that they are teaching at a school. And one day you open Twitter and you see a page of a student's information, student's name, surname, parent's name, religion, date of birth, home address, parent's phone number, blood group, a couple of things. So they basically snap like the info page of the child. All to prove a point that, I did not know that people from XYZ local government bear such names. In fact, I just saw somebody in my class has this name. If you think I'm joking, if we do a thorough sweep on different platforms, we'll find useless, flimsy reasons like this that people have used to breach privacy laws and leak personal data of minors. So now, for the teacher, it's a harmless, I'm just trying to tell people that I've never seen this name before. God's confidence is, that's a beautiful name, by the way. But not only have you leaked the child's name, you have posted an entire information page on the child. Their blood group, their genotype, their parents' names, where their parents work, their home address, parents' phone number. Somebody can take that information and do whatever they please with it. And that's because we don't know that you're supposed to protect the information of minors. You are clearly violating the laws that state that we should protect the information of minors. You are prohibited from sharing unauthorized. The child did not consent, neither did the parents consent. And you just see, this is why people sign things in contracts like non-disclosure and XYZ. You don't just share things because you feel like, because it looks cool, because you want to. You need to count the cost when you're sharing stuff. And tech companies, best believe I'm coming for you too. They are doing their best. But the way I have seen Meta penetrate Nigerian content creators and influencers in the last 2 years, I truly believe that they can do better. Not just them, every other company can do better with the laws and pushing out awareness at the local level. So if you're able to put creators in a room and tell them, this is how you can push out your content, these are the new features we are rolling out, this is how you can monitor your data and analytics, then we can do something like that for children. We can do something like that to talk about how the algorithm protects children, how the algorithm shows children what is safe. Still on this, I made a personal observation that if you're using Netflix, you can't take screenshots. You have to maybe use another device to take a picture or record, but with the device, you can't screen record or take a picture. So now, since a lot of these tech companies know that the age to join, most of them peg it at 13. Let me just write that down. 13. Would it be bad if we had a policy where for accounts of minors, so that's 13 to 17, you can't take screenshots and you can't screen record? We cannot prevent the person from getting another device, but at least that's a starting point. The tech might be hard to build, to ship, to enforce or implement, but we can do it. We can. Because that's a great step in the right direction. That means nobody can save the pictures of children or minors from their accounts directly. So that means when we now see those things on somebody's device, we know that they took the extra step. They painstakingly went to the other side to be able to get those materials. And for schools, the same way we were able to enforce civic education nationwide. See, I had to look for examples and similarities to be able to drive my point home. I knew when civic education became a thing, people even said, it's like governments, just enforce government. And the Nigerian Education Board said, no, civic education, they want us to know our rights, to be upright and moral standing citizens. And the same way we were able to spread that abroad, why can't we develop a digital citizenship curriculum? Bring out a new subject that teaches children how to conduct themselves online, because as we speak, someone can tell a 5-year-old, take a picture of the front and back of your mommy's ATM card. Hope you know that there are some children who don't know that is a problem. And they might be able to take those pictures and send to a fraudster. My point exactly. But if at every stage of a child's life, there is a curriculum that teaches them something on digital safety, something on how to conduct themselves online, I truly believe that if we are able to enforce that into the Nigerian educational system, we're going to see progress. In the next 3-5 years, by the time we see if you want to look at this, go to the number of children who just finished, say, SS3. Look at their Facebook accounts, like that initial wave before some of them start finding themselves, their identities, knowing what to. Most people just basically wing it online until they know what to share and what not to. But what if we were able to create structure for children? What if we were able to build an entire educational curriculum to show children that you don't have to wing it? Same way children are not winging it with maths and English. We can decide to ensure children don't wing it with their safety online. And the truth is, whether we are ready to admit it or not, we are raising digital children. At this point, it's not going to be easy to isolate your child from the internet forever. So the best we can do is to buckle up and begin intense training. Your child needs to know, if somebody makes this comment, what should I do? Should I panic? Should I delete it? If I find myself playing Roblox and I enter XYZ group, when I see things like this, what should I do? Should I tell my mom? Should I leave the group? How do I leave the group? How do I delete this? How do I not accidentally post this? People need, because even adults make these mistakes. You open your WhatsApp and somebody sends a transaction receipt to their status. It's a mistake. So if a grown-up can make that kind of mistake, how much more a child? So this is why we need to start the education early. Which brings me to the last segment of this episode. Should I play my guitar strings? Because I feel like I've been so serious and like I started off by saying a little tense. Okay. Whew. Let's calm the arena. Okay. So I like talking about solutions because I feel it's unfair to always talk about problems. So it's a very Nigerian thing to talk about problems and not talk about the solutions. I want to start by saying that this podcast is part of the solution. If you have listened to the last podcast and maybe the first, and you have listened to this one up to this point, I am very sure that you have heard and learned a lot of things you probably never knew. And this is why you need to be part of us. Share this podcast with somebody. Okay, no, we're not at the end. I don't need to start telling you to share yet. But yeah, you should share this with someone. Because if we all knew what to do, we'll be better equipped to protect children. But yes, what can we do to protect our children legally online? For parents, same old, but we'll continue to press down on it. Parental monitoring and mediation. So I was thinking back to my exposure with tech, and I realized that when I was like 6, we had a desktop at home, and it was in the living room. And now that I just have like memories of using it for Encounter Kids, OGs in the house, raise your hand. Marvis Beacon teaches typing and all those games, Zuma Revenge. Now that I think about it, it was very easy for my dad to just turn his neck and look at what we're doing. Or sometimes he'll just come and stand. Is this the game you're playing? Okay, I've been typing. It was in a strategic position. So now people don't have desktops, but you can either through parental controls or maybe even being present with your child to use the devices. There has to be a way around it. We cannot wiggle out of parental monitoring and mediation. There has to be a way. As the auntie and the uncle, don't just carry your phone and give your niece or nephew. Don't just go to a place and see cute children and give them your laptop. Be there, be present. When they're doing, how did you enter this page? Be curious, ask questions. Children like to ask you questions. You too, ask them because they're so curious. So sometimes they are also intrigued when you're asking them, and ask direct questions. Don't ask vague questions. Be so specific. This game, how are you able to shoot this person down? How did you? And listen to them explain. By doing that, by the involvement and presence you offer to children as they engage with tech, you are able to make their experience better and you're able to safeguard them. Next up is teaching them about privacy and digital safety, also your digital footprints. Some adults are still learning this, but it's fine. It's okay. We are all on a learning journey. But the truth is, your child no longer has the luxury of winging it. I hate to break it to you. You see, with sex education, there were generations who could afford to wing it for many reasons. And not that I'm about to get into that, but we all knew that it got to a time where some generations could no longer afford to wing it with sex education. Now, that's why we are teaching children body parts, safe codes, and etc. as early as 2, 1. Because the world has changed. Exactly my point. The world has changed with the internet, with tech, with innovation. So you are going to add digital lessons to your sex ed lessons. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm here to tell you that. You are going to tell your child what is safe to post and not to post. What is safe to look at and not to look at. If I mistakenly see something I don't like, what is the next line of action? Who should I tell? Who can I trust? You need to start telling your child early that the internet never forgets. Not as a way to scare them, but as a way to guide them, to use the internet to become powerful people, to become empowered people, to become people who do reasonable things and change the world. You need to have these conversations. And that's on this point. 2 schools. You know the beef I have with schools, which is why I took my time to look at solutions. I believe that the school system in Nigeria has been slightly bastardized. There was a time when schools were fewer, and not just that they were fewer. I think we took education more seriously as a country in that time. And I have cause to believe that we are not taking it that seriously again. And it's not just because there are more schools, but it's because we are looking at it from a profit angle rather than from a building angle. I don't know if that really sounds correct. But we are failing to see the bigger picture here. The school system is supposed to build. You are not just there to build it in for yourself. You're there to build literal human beings. You're there to actually put lives together. If your child is a boarding student in secondary school, they spend 9 months in school and an average of 3 months at home. So where exactly does all the building occur? In school. Which is why I have taken out my time to draft out 3 core solutions that I believe the school system, the educational system in the country should adopt. 1, introduce digital learning or digital citizenship, whatever I want to call it. Introduce it as a subject in Nigerian schools. Yes. And not to regurgitate what I said earlier, but if we can do it with ICT, animal husbandry, civic, catering, welding, pastry, vocational studies, we can do it with this. And I don't mean make it an elective or make it that course that the teacher just comes closing time to rush up and say 10 things in 10 minutes. We have to make it serious business. As serious, in fact, I dare say make it a compulsory subject for exam classes to write. Because a lot is happening, and this is just one of the many ways that we can double down to protect children. These people are minors. You see some of the things they post online and you cringe. Some of you listening to this podcast, if you look at what you put, if to go was still mainstream, there are people who would lose their minds, because some of the things that you texted people on to go, some of the things come on. So imagine if at that stage, you unconsciously, the knowledge just stays there until the day that it is required and it just manifests. I believe that we can do this. And yeah, as a country, I have reason to believe we can. So I'm not even going to overflog the issue. 2, train teachers on online safety and cyberbullying. So I don't know about the cyberbullying part because I haven't really seen teachers cyberbully a kid. But teachers definitely need training for themselves as teachers and for the children. The teachers need to know that you don't share sensitive information anyhow. Teachers also, it's a lot of things, and I feel like I touched on it while I was explaining some of the case studies for the law. But I believe that teachers should be trained because it is also a teacher that is going to handle the subject, and we basically all have to put our heads together. Same way we believe that the community raises the child, all the teachers, it doesn't matter what subject a teacher takes, a teacher should know these things. These are basic rules now. It's the same way any teacher can call you to the corner and give you sex ed advice and etc. Every teacher should now be able to call a child aside and give them online safety tips and teach them how to safeguard themselves online, teach them how to use their devices properly, teach them appropriate screen time, efficient use, and all the other things. So we should invest in that. In fact, I even had so I know people are going to talk about, the federal system, the teachers are more there. How do we go about it? Hear me out. Abuja has 6 municipal areas or local governments. I don't really know what they call it. There's Amak, there's Kwali, there's Kabusa, imagine if based on each of these municipal areas, all the federal school teachers, there's just a 1-day or 2-day retreat or workshop for them, and we get proper facilitators. These people educate the teachers, and then subsequently maybe pick out the teachers that already teach ICT, stuff like that. There has to be a way. We can't make the excuse that it's a government school, so we cannot. There has to be a way around it. There just has to. My next point, I'll explain. Create a media consent form for any student content. Now, this is in 2 phases. 1, for the schools that create content with children. 2, for parents to sign, so that when your child defaults and we suspend your child or expel your child, you will not go and drag us on Instagram. Now, for number 1, I see videos on Instagram. I'm not the head boy. I'm the health prefect. I'm not the head girl. I'm the social prefect. They are cute. Some of these kids are in primary school. Some are in secondary school. Long and short, they are minors. These videos are nice. They tell us that the school is great. The infrastructure, this is a great place for your child to be. But there are the days that some of these videos have made it to mainstream blogs. And when you look at the comment section, you realize that the intent the school and the media team of the school had is not what some other people outside have in their hearts. And this just goes to say that some of the parents may not even be aware that their children participated in such content. So before you use people's children to shoot cute content for your school, even the one where we have kids on billboards and is grades, I think I myself appeared on a couple of school magazines. Celeb. But instead of just taking children and let's give grace, the era of ignorance is over. If you have listened to this podcast or you're listening, you now know better. Parents should offer their consent. I'd rather written than just verbal. Because the world we live in, don't leave anything to chance. So before you see yourself on a popular blog. And for the second side of it, aside, this first angle, when you are bringing your child to a school, because the school has set digital infrastructure in place, PTA talks about these matters, and they have come together to decide that the way people sign forms, if you bully, some schools have very stringent anti-bully policies. If you bully, you're suspended either indefinitely, expelled, we can withdraw XYZ privileges. We should have things like that for media. So if your child is caught cyberbullying, if your child is caught, there's this Netflix show that I recently watched, Forever, and I'm guessing, middle school or high school, but the girl had a video with a boy doing something sexual. It kept circulating, and let's assume that the school had a policy like that. Her mother, if she told her mom, they could go to the school authorities this is what happened. This boy, we shared this video, and here we are. And because his parents had signed a consent form that if our child defaults in this area, he should face the long arm of the law, then necessary consequences can take its course. I believe that we should have that type of form for parents to sign on behalf of their children, so that you cannot, the way African parents will tell you, remember the family you are coming from. Remember the road that leads you home, Jerusalem. But so that when they're telling their children, remember the road that leads you home, they also say, If there's a WhatsApp group that's insulting other children, don't join them. If you see somebody post one meme, the yearly shorts, or talking about don't join. We need to have that. See, I don't believe Nigeria is too young for these conversations, and that's why I tried my best to bring some of these things home. We need to have that. If not, we will not see the results that we're looking for. On the end of the government, what more can I say? Please just enforce the law. It's bad enough that we don't have recent ones, and we are clamoring for a couple. I see that there are different NGOs always putting together, policies and just documents. It's bad enough that we don't have more. But the ones we have, let's make it work. And not just making it work, let's educate the public. This podcast can only do so much. Imagine if the government ran serious campaigns. I'm talking about door-to-door campaign. Women that go for antenatal. You're about to have a child. Tell them. People who randomly go to the hospital for stuff. Let there be little pamphlets. The digital child. Just a page, 2 pages. We need to double down and treat this like the situation it is. Imagine if the government could do that for us with government funds. We'll be in a better place. The government should fund child protection officers in every state. If we had offices, since we have organizations, this could be a new organization, not to embezzle money, chocos. But imagine if we had what name can I think of now? A digital child protection organization. And we had people trained, people who handle some of these cases. We have lawyers working with them. We have psychologists. We have therapists, counselors. Imagine if the government could offer that to Nigerian children. Wow. I'll truly be happy, because I feel like you just look at what is obtainable outside and you just... Anyways, we're talking about solutions. We're not here to drag anybody. Tech companies... The reason why I don't really say so much to tech companies is because sometimes with tech companies, there's only so much they can do if the product was not primarily designed for kids. If you listen to the last episode, you know that. So if the product is designed for kids, sure, you will see it in every step that they had children as their users in mind. So the only thing I can say is if you're going to allow minors interface with your product, with what you're building, please put the necessary infrastructure to protect them. Moderation policies, follow the law, whatever you can do. Flag content that looks like it exploits children or is promoting pornography, explicit stuff. Restrict content. They do that for songs. This song is not available in your region. Good. If the person is a minor, this content is not available. That's the least you guys can do, please. And for communities, we are family. Hey. We, you, me. I don't have kids yet. I'm not even married. But the rest of you who are listening to this, my friends, my schoolmates, my co-workers, the podcast is not just for parents. Which is why I tagged it as, grown-ups who care, who want to listen in, who are interested in these conversations. We are the world. We are the ones behooved with the responsibility to protect children. Number 1, report harmful content. I know one here for Twitter. Where is the video? Tag me. As you see, sharp reports. There's nothing funny about it. Why are we laughing that a 2-year-old boy is dancing with sexual poses, or a young girl, or they are saying vulgar stuff, or there's nothing funny about it? Please report the page, report the poster, take it as your civic duty. Yes, add it to your list of civic duties. The way some of us try to be good and upright citizens. When you use something, you don't put your trash on the road, you take it to the nearest bin, you keep it in your bag. Be like that with children. Protect them. Yeah, do that. 2, have the hard conversations about over-sexualizing children. Again, I don't want you people to think I'm sounding like a broken record when I say stuff and I'm like in another episode. is giving all these teachers that will say in our next class. But really, there is such a thing as over-sexualizing children. And it's a hard conversation because from the clothes that they now make for children to the songs to... It's a lot of things. But as the community, we can have those conversations online. When you are in the market, even if you're just trekking back from work as a young man, and you hear another man calling a small girl his wife, tell him, Oga, no try am, stop. Or you see a lady telling him, Bobo, rubbing his head in a suggestive manner. Sis, it's your responsibility to protect the children. Number 3, support NGOs and media groups creating safe spaces online. This is your cue to support the children and the media podcast, because we are a safe space for adults who are trying to protect children online. I mean, does this podcast qualify for a media group? I don't know, but we are sure a safe space. So if there are NGOs, other media groups, I come across so many. There's this really lovely group I found on LinkedIn. I think they call it Lads Need Dads. It's in the UK. I've seen so many organizations like that. Support them with your volunteering, with your money. Support them by resharing their content, posting, just in any way that you can, because we owe it to children to make the digital space a place where they can play safely, they can be human, they can be happy, they don't have to go about with too many worries. So, wow, it's almost an hour. Anyways, I told you guys to brace yourself. I think in subsequent episodes, we might now get back to friendlier timing. But I really hope that this episode opened your eyes to a lot of things. The problem, the solution, the use cases of the law. Because sometimes the law can feel abstract until you actually see, this is a case that requires the law. Oh, so if this happens, this is the law I can use. So please share this. Not just because you would be supporting the podcast or supporting me, but I truly believe that there are people who just need to know this, who need to know how and where the law applies, who need to know the solutions. Some of you are educators, some of you are in places where policies are made. You can bring some of these suggestions up and double down on seeing them implemented. With that, we have come to the end. I'm about to play my guitar so that this episode does not sound overly serious. We have come to the end of the episode, guys. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Together, we can protect children online. And we can use the arm of the law to make sure that children live happily ever after. Okay. I didn't really like the sound of that, but until 2 weeks' time, remember we are a bi-weekly podcast. So until 2 weeks' time, see you again. Same podcast, same channel, same conversations. Children and Media Podcast out. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.